In this lesson, I'm going to quickly talk about optimizations, and we're going to cover this topic throughout the course multiple times, so I really wanted to get the ball rolling early. Constantly consider that every complex process that puts strain on the CPU and the GPU can affect your work in Unreal. And what does that mean? It means that as you do your work, there is a constant interplay between what the hardware and the software and the platform that you're using is doing. There's going to be a slew of different workflows that you're going to encounter, and those are going to be constantly changing as time goes on. So there's constantly new architecture. The RTX 2080, it added an order of magnitude improvement in addition to the software improvements for global illumination, for example. And so part of what Unreal is providing is a slew of additional optimizations, workflows, and diagnostics as you move forward to constantly check to see what parts of the work that you're doing and how is it affecting the engine as well as the platform that you're using. So how many polygons are you bringing in? Are the lighting systems, the materials, and the rendering that you're using, is it expensive or is it keeping a great frame rate? Are the animation and simulations light, or are they something like fluid simulations, which are often very heavy? And same thing with programming. Programming can be done in a way that's very efficient, but constant monitoring for certain processes can also tax the processor. So up to this point, and we'll flip over to Unreal in a second before we sign off, pretty much frames per second. Let's quickly turn that on. I'm also going to show the scalability inside of Unreal, as well as when I provide this PowerPoint, these links will be in there to the scalability reference links inside of Unreal. The thing to ask yourself constantly is, in what way is the platform you're using flexible in terms of scalability? So a great example of this is Unreal inside of virtual reality versus the desktop. Now, virtual reality demands a 90 frames per second in each eye of at least HD, whereas on a desktop, you could scale your frame rates lower, and this is just going to result in a choppier visual output. But if your goal is to have constantly the highest epic rendered visuals, that might be acceptable on a desktop, but in virtual reality, that could conceivably cause nausea if you get a lower frame rate. So the great thing is that Unreal allows you to choose between what platform you're using and the frame rate, as well as what the hardware will provide. Tons of workflows that can help optimize your process. There's modularity, there's also level streaming, and I'm putting in links to just bonus videos that I've produced in the past that help go over some of these. We are, in the next chapter, going to be talking a lot about dynamic versus baked lighting, which can greatly improve your frame rates. There's also, in the past, been a lot of levels of detail used, and I'm putting in a video for that. A newer technique is using HLODs, which we'll cover in a future tutorial. So let's switch over to Unreal and quickly look at scalability before we sign off. The scalability settings are under Settings. And if you go under Engine Scalability Settings, you can see these quality settings. And if you shift down into low gear, it may even be recalculating some of the materials that you're using. Typically it goes low, medium, high, epic, and then sometimes there's some cinematic output, which the engine will potentially be doing some sort of additional rendering. Finally, Control-Shift-H will pull up frames per second. Depending on what work you're doing, you may or may not have an issue with frames per second. Recently, I've been doing a lot more virtual reality, and that's requiring me to keep my eye on the frames per second, as well as the techniques to keep that frame rate as high as possible. All right, so as we move forward, just constantly keep your eye on optimization potentials, as well as understand that the underpinning of Unreal has constantly been this back and forth between optimization and moving forward with visual fidelity. Well, that'll wrap things up. See you in the next video.